Welcome back, MTG Joe here. Today we're doing the last installment of the weekly meta breakdown for Standard Best of 1 before the bans come into play. So this upcoming Monday will be a ban and restricted announcement for the Standard format. There was a leak on Reddit that had a whole bunch of cards that they came out and said was not true. There was a store mix-up where Fable the Mirror Breaker and Bankbuster were included in the daily deals and then pulled an hour later. So speculation if that's going to be banned. But want to kind of just leave something before the weekend. If folks want to play Standard on the weekend, get to play the best decks, and then we'll kind of touch base when the bans come into effect. I'll pull the stats as quick as possible to see what the new meta looks like for both Best of 1 and Best of 3 formats. If you are looking for decks for the Metagame Challenge, which is historic this weekend, I did a couple videos dedicated solely to that, but you can find all content in the playlist Metagame Breakdown. So as always, we get the data from UntapedGG, which is a companion tool that aggregates win rate data for both yourself as a player, and then as well as the community at large, and then gives us these stats. The link is in the video description if you want to get started with Untapped, but I'll paste all these deck lists for your viewing pleasure. So we are looking at May 18th through the 25th, full Mythic rank, and we are looking at 50,000 games of Magic that were played for the week. The top deck of the week is those basic Mountain Lovers, Mono Red Aggro, 60.6, 61% win rate. And this is pretty much the stock list. We're not going to go too deep into it because there hasn't been much change week over week, but it's basically, are you playing the Thundering Raiju version, or are you playing the Mech Warfare version? The Raiju version is usually 3 to 4% higher. Lots of hasty threats that give you value along the way. You have Burn in the form of Lightning Strike, Play with Fire, and I like the addition of 2 Strangles. The cheeky one of Shivan Devastator for a late game evasive body, and then Squeeze in here for kind of a recurable threat. I personally don't like 3 copies of Mishra and then the 2 copies of Sokuzen. It's a little bit too much in terms of if you draw 2 of these, it's a little rough, especially because you're only playing 22 lands, so it increases the likelihood of that. You also don't have that many legends to really take advantage of the cost reduction. And then Mishra kind of limits your ability to play multiple spells on turn 2. So it's just something to consider if you want to play this deck. I'd probably trim down 1 and 1 and then play 2 more basic mountains. The next deck up is Azorius Soldiers. So we saw last week that they were going with the Convoke creature and then a bunch of 2-drops. We've seen some iterations of this deck that are playing more of a flash oriented. This version here is on the 2 Myrels, Single Denic, and the Harbins. You have Thalia for tax, and then kind of the shell of like the 3/3 drops that we see: Brutal Cathars, Siege Veteran, and Sky Strike Officer. Again, this is a deck that's I've spoken about weekly, so I'm not going to go too deep dive for this week. We really just want to kind of highlight the nuances week to week with the Soldiers deck. That's typically where I focus my attention on. From there, we go to Selesnya Enchantments. This is 59%. So this is the more aggressively oriented version with Kami of Transience in place with the 4 copies of Audacity. Calyx is a very powerful engine to this deck, letting you copy your enchantments. The one card, like I keep seeing it being played, I don't love it, is Invasion of Theros. While in this deck here, it could basically just tutor for either Ossification or Audacity. You don't have any gods, and it does take some damage. The payoff is fairly decent, but a lot of these decks that we see are fairly linear. So if you're taking a full turn off on turn 3 to just cast this invasion, it's not always necessarily worth it. There was a version playing 4 that had a slightly lower win rate. I was on the Hallowed Haunting version that I was playing, and I was enjoying it. That was when I was playing more into like the Rakdos mid-ranges and stuff like that. But there's kind of customization in terms of the way to approach building the deck itself. You can probably, like with the Ossifications, you are kind of splitting the mana base a bit, but 22 lands is also a little low. I would probably play 23, but it is what it is with this particular build. You're trying to use like Weaver of Harmony for value on doubling your enter the battlefield triggers. From there, we go to Naya Humans. So the Humans list got a bonus in Sigarda Font of Blessings. So it is another powerful angel with a human kind of lord effect. So it gives your other permanents hexproof, and then you can look at the top card of your library, and then you may cast those if they're human or angel, so it lets you cast any creature off the top of your library in this particular orientation of the deck. In addition to that, we have access to Coppercoat Vanguard, which is a Lord style effect, gives your other humans an extra power in terms of combat, as well as the ward ability, so it makes it cost 1 more to target it, otherwise the spell fizzles. We have Skrelv, take it back, that's the only creature that cannot be cast, but still a good protection spell mixed in with a bunch of powerful humans. Malira for protection, Thalia for tax, protection or offensive in terms of Valorous Stance, some tax effects and Anointed Peacekeepers kind of mixed into there. Plaza of Heroes and then Secluded Courtyard also help you cast your legendaries and the off-colored multicolored spells. So kind of the same idea. This one's the mono white version, so we see fractional percentage changes. This has a cleaner mana base for you, lets you play Laydown Arms as a removal spell, and then gives you access to Phyrexian Vindicator on the top. The other version has a little bit more like top end power in the sense that you have access to Halana and Alana to buff up your team, as well as Sigarda can provide some form of card advantage. This version of the deck is leaner, but also like if you get swept or heavy removal, you're not going to be able to recover as quickly because you don't have really any built-in draw mechanisms beyond the recruitment officer in this list. Then we go to Azorius Control. So this is the kind of say no deck of the format. So you have a lot of different removal options, sweepers in Sunfall and Farewell, counter spells and Dissipate and Negate, a bunch of like spot removal and Destroy Evil and Elspeth Smite, card advantage and Memory Deluge, Wandering Emperor is a win condition and removal built into one, and then Jace could be a card advantage engine, fog one of your opponent's creatures, and then eventually serve as a win condition by milling your opponent out. You have Iganjo and Atawara in the mana bases. And then lastly, Dimir Mill, 54%. So this is kind of a Dimir Control style shell. Similar elements to the Azorius Control. You have some counter elements. You have targeted removal, which is a little bit more efficient in the black color over the white. And go for the throat, cut down, and Infernal Grasp. Shieldred, powerful spell here. You have Gix Command as a sweeper in this color. So you don't get as good as sweepers as white, but you get better targeted removal, so it's kind of a trade-off. You also get access to Shieldred. And then basically Hitazuku can copy the Breach the Multiverse. Your breaches could cast, and then basically combination of like Jace, Breach, cast Jace. You can mill your opponent for like, so 15 off Jace, for example. It dies, then you cast Breach and mills him 10, that's 25, and then you could do another 15, that's 50 cards that get milled that way there, or 40 cards, sorry. So it's a way to kind of mill your opponent out while just dealing the early game with your opponent's spells. So that's it for the week. There's just like a lot of variations of like mono red, mono white soldiers right now. So I'm really hoping these bans kind of shift things up a bit. I really like to talk about Magic, but it is kind of annoying to talk about the same deck week after week after week after week. But let me know in the comments if you have any preference, like what you think will be banned and what you hope will be banned. I'll have my bias takes, but we'll see how it goes after. I just want to kind of see this card go away. I'm tired of playing against it. And then Fable should go, Bankbuster should go. I would like to see Atraxa go as well. I think the card's kind of dumb. Just kind of open up the ability for like other colors like green to be able to attack in, be able to do stuff. Just kind of open up the format a bit more. But let me know what you think in the comments. We'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching.